right now. Monochrome Memoirs, episode 5.
Whoop whoop.
What? Already 5?
Yeah, I know.
This is pretty good. It's going pretty fast, and we have a lot of ideas and a ton of really cool guests lined up.
For sure. Yeah.
It's going good, guys, and we appreciate all the support. There's been a lot of feedback and people reaching out saying that, hey, this is actually interesting.
Yep.
I mean, we didn't know what we were doing when we started this. So.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, definitely not. So today we got another interview with Mik Milman. He is somebody who's been a early supporter of our channel, and this is round 2 because the first one we screwed up the audio.
Yeah. Bummer, because it was really good.
It was really good, and you know,
it's gonna be better today.
Yeah, but Mik's a really easy guy to talk to, and he's another pro. He's got his own business. He's an event photographer, and he's been around for a while. So, you know, is a lot of useful information for the new people.
Yeah, he's great to talk to and easy to talk to. Very knowledgeable.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's get into it. Mik, what's up, buddy?
How are you guys doing?
Oh man, we are good.
Hey, Mik.
We're a little tired. We had a crazy weekend.
Oh yeah, very crazy. I'm exhausted, but
about 12 hours of traveling total over this weekend and 2 weddings.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, so you know, we're excited just to kind of chill and have a conversation.
Yeah.
So Mik, we wanted to start this off and just kind of go into your background first. Like, where we know you're from LA, you're primarily an event photographer right now, and but I know you've done a few different things with photography. So like, how did you start off? Like, what did you initially? What was the drive to get you into photography?
Hating every job I've ever had in my entire life. Fueled by an equal passion for photography. I learned photography in the darkroom. I was kind of right on that cusp where it was not quite phased out, and actually digital was really ridiculed at UCLA. Like, if you shot digital, it wasn't art. And you know what they did? They got rid of their darkroom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really, that makes total sense.
Such a bummer.
Fast forward a few years, yeah, like last time I checked, they got rid of it.
But hold on, UCLA, why? Did you go to UCLA?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was actually a history major, but I spent all my time in the darkroom.
Excellent.
Wow.
I love that.
My daughter wants to go to UCLA. I mean, she's 10, but that's her dream, gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, yeah. They have a good program, right?
Great.
Super good. Yeah, it's like one of the best in the country.
Yeah, great program.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I used to see those girls walking down Bruin Walk with like ice bags, like plastered to themselves, like after a workout.
Oh yeah.
Looked rough.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you started off in the dark room at UCLA, and then what did you just start shooting for yourself for the creativity? I mean, did it grip you instantly? I mean, how did it work?
For me, yeah, it was just everything about it, the entire process of photography. For me, I kind of shifted to it because I had quit drawing or painting after a while. No one was pushing me into it. In fact, it was just kind of supported as a child. My mom would drive me like really far just to take art classes, but in my mind, in my child brain, like I was like, oh, you're making me do this, and so I kind of had like a backlash. I kind of said I don't want to do it anymore, quit.
Normal
and
child.
But you know, you have that creative itch.
Yes.
And eventually, it's a little ridiculous because it's just a different kind of craft, but I figured, I don't need all those motor skills I needed to be a good painter, which I kind of lost and wasn't good at anymore. So I started fresh, and I started photography.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, man, because that's kind of like my story. Like I was a kid who I was always into some type of like creative endeavor. Like I used to draw like huge murals on my wall when I was a kid. I was into painting. I was into anything like, you know, heavy into music, stuff like that. And it's funny how like people who end up in photography, you know, when you start off that kind of childhood feeling like you have to do something creative, photography just, when you get into it, it instantly grips you as something that like just, it takes over your entire life. You get obsessed with. Was it like that with you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I lived in the darkroom, and the chemicals would start to get to me after a while, especially in the black and white darkroom where you have open chemicals.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I do like 8-hour shifts. I did 22 hours straight once at UCLA. I had to actually hide from security. Like, he would do his rounds, and I would duck under a table. And I'm not kidding. Like, this is real. The grad students were allowed in at any time, but I wasn't a grad student. But
Hmm.
it's kind of like they know who's really into it. You kind of have your core group of just photographers, and most people were art majors taking photography classes, and then there were the photographers.
Hmm.
And I was one of those people. Nobody even knew I wasn't an art major.
Hmm.
You know, like you
That's
feel kind of insecure. Oh, everyone's an art major. I'm a history major, and I'm taking all these classes, and you think everyone knows. Like somehow it's obvious, but nobody really knew. They assumed I was one of them.
What was like with the history though? What did you want to do with that? Like, what made you want to go into history?
I don't know.
I always wonder.
like that's a good question.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
because I hear.
you know, it's like I come from. I think my generation's been raised on, oh, you can do anything you want, and then, oh, go to college, you'll get a good job.
Yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
all we over and over. That's what we were told.
Yeah.
And so I went to college, and I didn't think much about it. I took my required classes, and then I spent all my time in the darkroom or taking. I also took a lot of cinema classes, and but I didn't really think about it. I didn't want to be a lawyer, which a lot of people end up doing, but I just kind of kicked the can down the road, sort of.
Right.
Didn't really think much about it.
And so as you were doing that history major, were you thinking about photography the whole time? Like when did it become something that you're like, okay, shit, I should probably do this, or I could actually make money doing this?
Yeah, so after college, I graduated. I had a girlfriend, a long-term girlfriend that used to live in Peru, and I'd go back and forth. And on one of my trips there, I got really, really sick. And when I came back, I was in and out of the hospital over and over the course of a month. And eventually, they had to just check me in. Like I was almost dying. Like I wrote a will out because I thought I was gonna die.
What?
Wow.
What kind of sickness was it? Was it just like?
So, like a month later, they're like, "Oh yeah, so it was Q fever, like this obscure kind of thing."
Oh my
but
god, jeez.
it just went unchecked, and you get hepatitis A from it, B, bronchitis, like everything.
So fuck shit up.
And I was just like a brittle frame, you know, and that post-college optimism was sucked out of me. And so I got a call. I got out of the hospital one day. I get a call from my best friend, and he's like, "Hey, me and Nicole, we're gonna move to Portland. You want to come?" And I'm like, "All right."
Sure.
And I'm not really impulsive about big life stuff, like little things. I like to improvise, but I moved up there, but this is kind of pre-digital being any good, and so shooting film, like you were dependent on a darkroom. I mean, I suppose I could have sent my negatives out. I could have had it processed, but then I couldn't post to Instagram.
Right.
Yeah.
That didn't exist. And so I kind of printed a few times there, but for the most part, kind of got on with my life and didn't do much shooting. Then I moved to Peru. I lived there for a year, and kind of after, again, kicking the can down the road and not really doing anything with my life, I was just teaching English, which was a really cool experience, though, because I basically got to go and have conversations with like really important people in Peru.
Heck
They're
yeah,
like, oh,
man.
That's really cool.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, to them, they're like, UCLA is Harvard. It's like, it might as well be. It's like, oh, wow, UCLA. And so they would send me to CEOs, politicians, a lot of professors, and I was paid to have conversations and learn. So basically, I'd go in and still do my history thing and like talk to them about their specialty. It's like a free class for me.
Hell yeah.
I've always been really curious, and I love to just explore all different topics. And I did that for a year. I moved back home. I traveled a little bit before moving home, and I'm sitting in this conference that I wanted to attend, and I'm having a conversation with a stranger. Maybe she was being nosy, I don't remember, but she kind of looked at like my pros and cons list I was making, because I thought maybe I wanted to pursue film, like actually making movies. And we went over the list, and she just looked at me and said, "Dude, it seems really clear you want to be a photographer."
Yeah.
And it clicked. It was like, oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oops. And then like I remember having that conversation years and years later with one of my college roommates, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, that's all you did, you know?"
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, like we didn't lose touch, but we didn't talk that so much for a while, and he actually has a YouTube channel too. So we kind of like got together again after many years, and we did a video together. And actually, that's the first video. That's how I found your channel, and I knew you'd like that video because it was talking about like mental health and free.
Oh, that is the video I found you on. And honestly, I
Right.
wanted to talk about that on this interview too, because that was an excellent video.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought that was really important, and it wasn't. It was. I was able to give firsthand experience, but having an actual doctor of psychology, being able to chime in and talk about it, it was really beneficial, I think, to people.
Heck
Very
yeah, man.
cool.
That was some useful information. I mean,
Yeah.
one thing that I wanted to touch on though is you said that you were thinking about cinematography a few times through this kind of life finding yourself process, which I think is really interesting because Sarah and I talk about this a lot, that cinematography is such a good way for photographers who are starting off or who have been in it for a long time to really learn how to step up their game and take it to the next level, because people don't understand that we're almost calibrated by the stuff we see every day, and we're calibrated by just tip of the spear cinematographers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the way that they use color, the way that they use angles, the lenses that they use, you can learn so much by studying film and how these guys do it.
Right, and some things have inherent meanings, and like for example, red were programmed, I think, biologically to respond to red in a certain way, and blue in a certain way. But a lot of it is this visual story we've kind of developed through filmmaking and photography, and we've become used to seeing things in certain ways, and certain things take on new meanings. Like, I forget what video I've posted and what I haven't, because like a week or two ago I recorded like 10 in a row, and so I don't remember.
Beast.
Like, I have to strike when the iron's hot.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. Yes, we
For
say that
sure.
all the time.
Like,
Inspiration comes and goes like waves.
Yeah, it really
Like,
does.
my girlfriend helped me to get one video out that took me like 5 hours once, but sometimes I'll sit down, I'll do like 10 videos, but I have shot, I don't remember if I posted one, just kind of on that visual language and the meaning behind certain things. Like, for example, characters often go left to right in a scene when they're going somewhere. The return journey, they often go right to left. Things
That's
like that. Like,
interesting.
you can see that in The Graduate, for example. That's one example my like film teacher showed me. And then we have certain rules we break to kind of give different meaning. Like, for example, you'll see in a lot of horror films when they'll use a tilt shot to kind of symbolize things gone awry, I guess.
Totally.
That's
Yes,
cool.
man, that's so interesting because I was watching Natural Born Killers the other day from Oliver Stone.
Great.
And
Love
you
that.
remember that movie, Mick?
I saw it. I don't remember it too well.
Dude, you should go back and watch that. It's one of me and Sarah's favorites.
Love
and
it.
artistically, that guy was on another level with that stuff. And I was just thinking in my mind the whole time, like, this is literally like a creative, like, adrenaline shot for me right now. And I was going to make a video on it because I think the new people, if you're feeling like you're in a rut or if you're stuck creatively or something like that, go back and study these cinema and these films.
Yeah.
Because these people are literally showing you exactly how to make things interesting, how to make things like, dynamic, how to, boost up your creativity. And I feel like a lot of new photographers fall back on looking at still images to try and get inspiration when they can learn so much from cinematography itself.
Absolutely, and it's more readily available in a sense. I mean, we're inundated with it. But yeah, like in understanding, I think learning that language is really important. So that you can kind of convey what you're trying to convey. If you want to convey that someone has a lot of power, for example, you often shoot from below. Citizen Kane, they actually dug holes into the set in order to get the camera even lower to show how important the protagonist was.
Wow,
Really
I
cool.
didn't know that. Me and Sarah,
Yeah, that's
Citizen Kane, I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
I learned so much about lighting from that movie.
Yeah.
And composition, the way that they use deep focus to kind of like, have multiple elements playing off each other in the scene, making dynamic photos. I do that with my wedding stuff now.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? I try and place multiple things in the frame to tell like multiple stories within one photo. And I learned that from Citizen Kane.
Well, that's why we watch a lot of films, for
We
the
do.
photography and to see how, they frame everything. It's really, really cool.
Definitely, in the colors. So moving on from that, Mick, so you basically, when did you start, like what was your first paid job? How did you get into that?
Oh man, I don't know if I'll
We're
remember.
going back. We're going way back.
I can tell you my first step was I knew photography, but I had the humility to understand I didn't know the trade. And there's a difference between knowing your shutter, your aperture, your ISO. I mean, I was already teaching at that point, actually. I kind of moved back here, and my mom put me in touch with the director of it's a city art center. I still teach for the Department of Cultural Affairs, LA. And he was telling me they had a dark room, and like he gave me the tour of the place, and I'm like, I gotta see the dark room. Can you show it to me? And it became basically a closet, like boxes stacked to the ceiling. So I spent 3 days cleaning it out. Like nobody asked me. I just showed up every day.
I need to fix this shit.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, go for it. You can go through it. And I spent like 3 days cleaning it. And after a while, like I wasn't kind of gunning for a job, you know. I just wanted to use their dark room, and they said I could. And after that, they were really impressed by my commitment, and they helped me find a grant so I could start teaching, because there was a hiring freeze, because this was during the Great Recession.
Ooh,
so they couldn't actually hire me, but they could kind of like work some magic through a grant where I could teach. And so that's what I did until they could hire me. So I was teaching already, and I thought, okay, it's not about what my dream job is. What can I get into right away? And I thought weddings. And the barriers to entry were a lot smaller then, but nowhere. I mean, it's nothing like now where anyone can just jump into it a lot easier.
Yes.
Because you can just market yourself online and all that. But this was kind of right before I think the really big studios phased out, and you had a lot of independent photographers kind of propping up. And a lot of people think it's because of digital technology, like new cameras, you could just buy a digital camera, all that. But the reality is it was the free marketing you could get online.
Yes.
Because back then, big studios existed because they had to pool their resources in order to market the studio, where now you don't need a marketing budget. So you can just jump right in. And so this studio was like the largest in LA that I started with. And the way I landed the gig was I basically made an Excel sheet of every studio I could find in Los Angeles. I put like their phone number, their email, notes. You have to make sure that the name, like for example, actually I don't think I should say the name of the studio I worked with, but let's say it was
a big one in LA.
Let's say it was called Jonathan Thomas.
Yeah.
But there was no Jonathan Thomas at that studio. It was two names combined.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to, you have to put notes so when you call, you don't say, hey, it's Jonathan Thomas there. And so I called every studio. And if you're serious, you have to follow up with an email, or email then follow up with a call. That's what I actually think I did. And nobody called me back, except for 2 or 3 people. One's like, nope. The second one was like, you got to check out this studio. And it was like the largest in LA at the time. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to be the one that's going to actually like hire me, right?
Too big.
And that's the only one that hired me.
Nice.
Every job interview, I think it's really important. Every job interview you go to, you dress up, you wear a suit, unless it's for like a kids camp or something like that. I think you got to dress up. You got to show you're serious.
You wore a suit, Mick?
I don't think I wore a jacket, but yeah, I did.
Nice.
I showed up to the studio. I met with the main guy, and then he introduced me to everyone. I showed them my work. So it's it's tough, right? You want to shoot weddings, but to shoot weddings, you need a portfolio.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I noticed you did a video on working for free, and I would say I mostly agree with it. But yeah, actually, I would say I agreed with it.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid. Yeah. I want to be honest. So,
Totally.
Yeah, but when you need a portfolio, how do you do that? You can't just say, hey, I'm a wedding photographer.
Pay me
money. Yeah,
right.
you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I work with a studio first, and I'll assist. I'm like, I'll hold bags. I don't care.
I love it.
But I knew even they wanted to kind of see your potential, and they wanted to see my work, and so I shot a wedding. I shot it for like $195 to cover.
What does that sound like, honey? That sounds like us.
I basically figured out what my rentals would cost because I moved back home. I had to live with my parents for a while. It was the worst economic period of my life, and the last, I don't know, like 100 years, actually. I don't think anything's compared. Like, we've had recessions, but I mean, there's a reason we call it the Great Recession, so we'd have to go back to the Depression. And yeah, I had no money. I bought a 40D with my grant money. I had that, and I had like, I don't think I had a nifty 50. I had like the garbage kit lens.
Yeah.
You know?
Small zoom, 18 to 35 or something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it was like an 18 to 120 feet. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so I rented some gear. I shot a wedding. I had my buddy John second shoot for me just for moral support, and he never even held a camera.
Just make sure I don't pass out, man.
Seriously, I don't even remember why I had him. I was like, dude, just come.
Yeah. Can't be alone.
I'll look more legit.
Yeah. You don't want to do it alone.
I'll look more legit. That's funny.
Yeah. I bought because back when you're starting, you're a lot more insecure when you don't know your stuff, and when you're kind of you feel like you have more to prove.
Yeah.
And so I remember getting the battery grip for my 40D to make it look more professional.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, and like back then, it was very common, I don't know about now, where there would be a guest with better gear than you.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, congrats, dude. Like, all right.
Awesome.
I don't care.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I still shoot with my 5D Mark III. You know, I know exactly when I plan to upgrade it, but we don't have to get into that yet.
Yeah.
So I rent this gear, I shoot this wedding, I bring it to the studio, and they look at it, and they kind of judged me, not in a negative way, but like
they're sizing you up a little bit.
Because like I went big, I watched. YouTube was not what it is now, and I wish I kind of knew what it would become. You know,
Heck
and got on
man!
YouTube.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't. There was very few videos online at the time, but I found some teaching you how to use your speed lights externally. And so I watched them. I bought speed lights. I didn't even practice. Like,
gosh.
I showed up to the wedding, and
I love this story.
Yeah.
I love this
set
story.
up, like double umbrellas, and I did like okay, right? But I pulled it off.
Yeah,
of
course.
But like I'm a visual learner where I can watch something and then repeat it. You know, like I relate a lot of things to jujitsu because I've done that for like it's my other big thing, right? That I've done for a very long time.
Yes.
And like I've got a friend who he'll watch the technique we're gonna work on, and then he'll look at me and be like, "What are we doing?" He has to feel it, right?
Yes.
Right.
So that's how he learns.
He's got to put his hands on it.
Right. Everyone learns well that way, but some people learn well visually, some people through audio. I'm definitely a visual learner, so I saw it, I repeated it, I pulled it off. I don't think it was necessary. I actually think it would have been fine to shoot available light.
Yeah.
But what do I know? I don't know anything at this point.
Yeah.
So I bring it to that studio, they look at it, they're like, yeah, we got like 200 people that want to shoot with us, but you seem good, so let's give it a shot. I'm like, I'm really calm when I'm in high stress situations. Like,
Same.
Like high stress, I'm just super calm. I'll react later, and I'm like, yeah, cool, man, sounds great. You know, whatever. And then I drive home, I'm like screaming, like, yes, because I needed a win. You know, I needed a win. It was really hard back then. And I shot my first gig, and they're like, I wasn't trying to impress them. I just loved the job. I hustled, and I worked my ass off, and the images looked great. And I came in, they were going to kind of do a critique and pay me. And it was kind of funny because everyone, before I talked to the guy I shot with, was like, oh, there he is. Oh, wow, there he is. Like, so I knew I did a good job, right?
Yeah, they were talking about you.
Yeah, like, oh, Dave, oh, shit.
We'll bleep it out. Yeah.
All right. He won't stop talking about how great you were. And then I meet with him, and he offers me, like, peanuts. Like, he's like, so let's talk about money. And I'm like, buddy. Just gave up your leverage. Like, come on, I killed it.
Yeah.
So, like, I negotiated for a little more. It wasn't much, but, so I started, that's how I got in. I started shooting weddings, and then concurrently you would start looking for your own gigs. And I was learning the trade. I was talking to him. He was like, I wouldn't say a mentor because it's not like he really took me under his wing, but he was very generous with his knowledge. What it was is I reminded him of himself a bit when he was starting out, and he really liked that. I was really so. If you watch my channel, you know I don't think technique is the end all be all, and I think it can lead to very stale images if it's all you care about.
100%.
But you learn the technique to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
So if you have a vision, you have to understand how to execute it. And not only do you need to know how your camera works, but you need to know how your camera sees, because it doesn't see like the human eye. And that's why they see a beautiful sunset and they're like, ooh, that's beautiful. And they take a picture. It doesn't look anything like it.
Yeah.
And it's because they haven't really programmed their mind to see the way the camera sees yet.
It's funny.
Well, that's really,
That's a really cool point. I just want to pause you there because that's interesting. I made a video. I don't know if you saw it, one of the last few ones, and it's about breaking the rules of photography.
I watched it today. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is Sarah and I talk about this all the time because the point of that video is Sarah and I we're kind of, we're advanced. We know our cameras. We've been doing this for a long time. And we're to the point now where we can definitely push the boundaries and experiment with things. And we feel like when we're shooting weddings, it should be a representation of the feelings there rather than a direct representation of how everything looked.
Right.
So we like to do things, we like to overexpose in certain areas. We like to put people out of focus. We like to put people off the rule of thirds. High contrast images, low contrast, just all these different things that technically aren't, correct. But I think that it's so important that people realize it's not just about picking up a camera and then just, this is a blurry image, so it's good and artistic. You do have to know exactly how things should be before you can break them and really, really push boundaries.
So that's another video I made, but I don't think I've done the edit or posted. But Picasso could do a photorealistic painting if he wanted to. So he was choosing not to. His early work was realistic, but he chose not to. And you can't just waltz in and be like, oh, hey, no, I choose not to do. I don't know what, I paint.
I'm gonna splash paint against the wall, and it's artistic, man. Yeah.
But most of those early painters, like if we're talking about like Picasso and his generation, they were choosing not to have photorealistic work. Yes. And if you want to break the rules, you need to learn them so that you can properly break them.
Definitely.
And also so you're not breaking them out of a lack of knowledge or, just this naivety.
Yeah. Of thinking that it's something groundbreaking.
Yeah, and I think people get frustrated with that. I know that when I was first getting into it, going back, you want to be the best, you want to go in and you want to be the best. It takes a while. I mean, it's not easy. You have to figure out what you're I remember what you're saying about going in with all this gear. I know that I think we were talking to Scott about that too. I wanted to go in with all this stuff so that I looked professional. Because I was
battery grips.
Yeah, I was I
bigger
need
camera,
all
the better.
This crap so that because I'm this small person anyways, and Will and I do talk a lot. I normally do talk a lot. I know sometimes on here I don't, but I do.
But I love hearing you, babes.
I am, smaller, and I just come in and I'm I need to have all this shit, and now I know I'm man, I don't want to have any of that. How can I make my life easy? Because I'm going in I don't want my camera smashing around. I just want we're always talking about a better
a smaller setup, a less intrusive setup is least we can get in the way of other people.
Right. I think people just intrinsically think that the more complex something is, the better. Yes. And that's just not the case.
It's not the case, man. Yep.
Most of my studio work, if it called for it, I would do very elaborate lighting setups. But typically, I went with your classic, I modified Rembrandt light. That's really it. Just simple Rembrandt light. And that has this timeless, beautiful, classic look. And if you're going for elaborate setups, there should be a reason for it, and there should be a reason behind everything. That's what it comes down to. Like, if you're following specific rules, you should ask yourself, why am I following that rule? Is it arbitrary, or is there a reason? If you're breaking the rule too, though, like, there should be a reason for breaking the rules.
Yes.
And when you understand the rules, you're able to understand when to break them and to what effect it would, like, give you. So, for example, if we look at TV or movies, do you guys watch? I forgot if I asked you last time. Mr. Robot.
No, we haven't seen it.
It's like that's a clinic on breaking the rules of, like, composition.
Oh, okay.
But it's for a reason. Like, a lot of the shots are very bizarre. They'll do from claustrophobic shots where it's very overly tight to where you have a lot of negative space. I mean, a ton of negative space, and it's cropped strangely. And it's to kind of mirror his internal anxiety. So
is
it makes
this Netflix?
sense. And,
is this a channel?
or
YouTube?
you can watch Mr. Robot on Amazon.
Okay.
If you're okay, so I don't want to ruin it, but, like, you're gonna figure it out right away.
Yeah.
It's very much inspired by Fight Club. If you like Fight Club.
Oh yeah, we love it.
Fight Club.
Love it. Yeah.
So that's, like, my
seen it in a
favorite
while,
movie
but love
because
Dude, what a movie!
Yeah.
But that was cinematography. I mean, the color grading and all that stuff. You could learn. That's another one that you new guys are
That's a
listening.
good one.
That's a
That's a
great
really good
one
one.
to
Yeah.
learn.
Great one. Yep.
But
So, like, there's this thing they say about filmmakers. Everyone wants to, like, the new filmmaker, they're more insecure, or cinematographer, and they want to use all these elaborate shots, but, like, it's arbitrary. It's like, why are you doing that? I watched some lame romantic comedy with Keanu Reeves, who I do like, but they were shooting shots with, like, 600 millimeter lenses, I think. So
really?
massive
Like
amounts of compression.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to me like that seemed very amateur. Like, there was no reason to do it. It was kind of like an insecure cinematographer kind of showing their chops. But
very
the
interesting.
reason, but, like, every new filmmaker, everyone wants to use a push. You guys familiar with a push pull? I think it's called a push pull.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, there's that Marla Singer shot. I don't remember if it's actually a push pull, but, like, it's perfect in that moment. But if you just did that randomly.
Well, man, these are so many. There's so many good topics here, and I really hope that people who are, like, listening, the new guys or people who need inspiration are really listening to this stuff, because the whole point of it is having a vision and being experienced enough to where you can connect with the imagination that's coming up in your head and execute those shots. So if you haven't learned, like I've said this before, like, when I first started getting into photography, I bought it was like one of the first Nikon digital cameras, little starter crop sensor cameras that came out, and I slept with the thing. I literally would fall asleep going through the menus and learning it. And I got to a point to where, okay, I've learned exactly how to execute the things that are coming up in my mind. So when there's something that's out of focus, or there's something that's, not technically right, or highlights are blown, or something weird like that, the reason why people like it and connect with it is because there was a purpose and there's a vision behind it. It's not just some random, thing that I'm like, oh, this is beautiful because it's art.
Yeah. Getting back to, like, bringing things in, like doing light stands and all this stuff, is also, like, we have to remember that we're going into, like, maybe a bridal suite, and there's, a bunch of girls there, and, like, you start pulling out all this crazy stuff, and it's like they're like, what's going on, what's happening, like
100%.
And how many shots are you missing to set that up?
Exactly. And that's what I was going to touch on, is, like, I mean, they're looking at you like, what's going on, things get knocked over, I mean, they're popping champagne and stuff too. So it's really like you have to look through the camera. I mean, I'm always like, the thing with I really like with the Z7 is that you can look at the back and, like, kind of see things. Like, when I move the camera, I look, but I'm always looking through, like, into the camera, because then I'm like, well, what am I seeing with my eye? And how can I crop this, or how can I do that? I mean,
it's the vision.
Yeah.
It's the vision, and that's what it comes down to, and that's the thing that I want to hammer is just really, guys, I've made videos on this before, but your imagination is your tool. That's the biggest tool. When you make a step above somebody who's actually learning, and you're a practitioner of your camera is an extension of who you are now, then you can really start to develop your imagination to get the shots that'll separate you as a photographer. And, it goes back to what Mik was saying with the, learning about, these cinematographers and stuff. People like us, we can look at a a movie, and we can dissect those shots, and we could say, okay, this is, I see where they're shooting from. This is probably this focal length. I understand what they were trying to portray with this angle. I'm going to use that in my, next shoot. Yeah. And you can start to really just develop after you've already learned those rules and you've learned how to break them.
Yeah.
Right. I want to stop you guys real quick because your video went out, and I don't know if that's a problem, a global problem, or just on my end.
Okay, well, let's see this for a second. I think that we're still recording. So, okay, so this is probably just going to be a podcast now, guys.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
All right, well, let's keep going, but we just got this is a podcast. These are rookie mistakes, guys.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
Because when I was looking through like your photography like a while back, I saw that you had photographed Jamie Lee Curtis, and I was just wondering like how and why and where you were at and how you got into that shot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That was at a fundraiser event.
Cool.
And basically it's for an organization that funds progressive women running for office. So new women running for office typically, but I think if you're a progressive, if you're a woman, they basically are open to supporting you. And she was kind of hosting it. It was at my friend's house, but she was like a co-host.
Okay.
And she's really cool, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was her deal?
Yeah, I actually forgot. I did the other day when I was recording new videos, I did a few talking about what it was like to work with so-and-so, like Boz Lerman and Nick Offerman. I forgot about her. I don't know why, but...
it was a great portrait, too.
Well, I was going to say that. It's a really good portrait.
I shot that with my Pentax 6x7. I try to bring a film camera whenever possible to a job, either to shoot a roll for myself, for the enjoyment of it, to really zone in to the experience of shooting, because that's what inspires me. I just love shooting film. It's not about it being inferior or superior. I just enjoy it. But another thing I tried to do is do one film shot, and so I brought my 6x7. I grabbed that shot of her. Very simple, it was basically where she was standing, like, let me just have you do this real quick and I'll get the shot. What was interesting about her is she's a photographer as well.
Oh, wow.
And so throughout the day, she always knew where to put people, where the light was. She even understood how light would reflect and how to find windows of light. I really enjoyed working with her. She was a straight shooter, very much like present and, like willing to connect with me.
Yeah.
And that's what I've noticed about a lot of these, I don't know what to call them, but celebrities, that when I've worked with them, they kind of pay me the same respect I'm paying them.
I love it.
Great.
So we often think of it as the photographer's role to kind of build rapport.
Yes.
But once in a while, you have someone that gets that and is returning it back at you.
Yes, 100%. What do you think about that? Do you think it's the photographer's job? It's funny because I saw this pop up on like my Facebook feed. There's all these masterclass things going on. And so it was Annie Leibovitz, and it was like a little clip of her, and she says, I don't think it's the photographer's job to connect with the clients.
I've seen that. I'm trying to remember what the exact quote was.
But it's basically her was just saying that she doesn't think it's her job to loosen up the clients or connect with them. What do you think about that when you're shooting portraits?
I hesitate to comment on what she's saying because that was a clip. Because I've seen the same clip and wondered where she was going to go with that.
Sure.
Because she's a person my impression is that she does understand what the essence of photography is about.
Yes.
She's not a technical photographer.
No.
Mind you.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure she has her assistant setting everything up. In fact, she openly admits it. Like,
really?
I've seen a clip where she's like, "Yeah, f-stop, what's that?"
Oh,
like, really,
wow.
she said that.
Wow.
Interesting.
And she knows what an f-stop is.
Of course,
sure.
of course.
You know, just to illustrate a point that it's not about the technical stuff. I agree it's not, but I also think getting the technical stuff gets it out of the way so that you can be creative. So I think I've talked about this before, but when I was starting out shooting weddings, the guy I worked with would always say, oh, you have two types of photographers. You have the technical type, and then you have the creative shoot from the hip type.
Yeah.
and that there would be no crossover. You're kind of one or the other, and that's I talked about being judged by them. They kind of pegged me for the technical type, and at the time they may have been correct.
Well, you
Because,
showed up with a bunch of umbrellas and stuff like that. So,
well, yeah, but also like when you're learning it, you have to like really obsess over the technique to learn it,
Oh,
so that you can get it out of the way.
Yes. Yep.
Ultimately, though, like for example, I it depends on the type of shot, but there's a lot of technical things I break all the time, or not they're not rules, but everyone's shooting wide open all the time.
yes. Yep.
And I want to make a video on this. I'm going to do it soon, where I want to take historical photographs and then I want to blur the background out. And I want people to see how weak those images become when you have no context.
That would be such a good freaking video.
Like
That's really
I
cool.
have like I love history. I have framed the sailor making out with the nurse in Times Square.
Times Square, yep.
It's beautiful.
So I have that framed, and it's just imagine that shot if everything else was blurred out and it looked like a wedding photo. Like
100%.
No context.
Mick, hey, thank you so much for talking about this, because I've said this in a few of my videos too. Bokeh is not going to save your shitty image. I'm sorry, it's not. You have.
Oh, no, it's not. But it actually makes it easier to pull off an aesthetically pleasing image. When you're shooting with a big telephoto zoomed in and then everything's blown out in the background, it's easy.
Yes.
It's a lot easier.
Exactly.
You just throw a rule of thirds on the into it and it looks good.
Right.
But
that doesn't make you a real photographer who's looking for moments, who's actually dissecting the real situation and putting multiple elements or things in it to create a gripping image. If you're going back to what you said, those old photos that won all these awards, Pulitzer Prize winning, it's not because they had blown out backgrounds. It's because they were compelling images. Compelling,
exactly. And I've talked about this before. There's a lot. I call them clever over compelling.
Yes.
Where you have these photographs that are clever but not very compelling.
Yep.
And I don't want to. I don't really like saying anything negative about anyone's work. I don't actually remember whose work it was, but I'm pretty sure they are not the only person to try to do this. But there's this one shot that always comes to mind when I think of street photography that's clever but not compelling. And that is, there's a billboard in the background and there's like a handout or something, like the person is holding their hand out and the photographer was waiting for a person to walk by, and when they're like swinging their hands naturally, it kind of looked, when caught at the right moment, it looked like they were holding the hand of the billboard.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. 100%.
And so it's clever, but what is this photo about?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think that honestly, photography and photos speak to people differently. I feel like I could look at a photo and I have a different feeling than Will may have, and so I think that you can take it however you want. I mean, that photo of the sailor and that woman. I mean, I may feel something different than anybody else will when you look at that. So
yeah, 100%. But it's just like, the thing is if you could buy a 105 1.4 lens and go around and just shoot with it, and things are going to look pretty. If you have two people in there, there's a blown out background, especially if it's backlit. I mean, it's going to be a pretty photo. But the thing is are you doing that just because that's your only trick, or do you understand how to really make those gripping images? Because there's these wedding photographers that we like, two-man studios, and have you heard of them?
No.
Okay, so they're the husband and wife photo team, and they're pretty big time wedding photographers. Have been getting a lot of traction this year, and they really got the name for themselves by doing these wow shots, like these eye candy photos, big backlights, crazy effects, just all this stuff. And I heard a interview with them recently, and they were basically talking about this, and they were saying how just kind of bored they were with that stuff, and they realize now that there's a time and a place for it, but that stuff is not that is not the type of photography that's actually going to move people for years and years to come. It's not going to be the type of photos that actually stand the test of time. They're
That's
cool.
not the one you frame for grandma.
Exactly. And you know,
Exactly,
it goes back like Sarah's mother passed away when she was younger, and we have a photo of her, and she's just, you know, it was just like a little, you know, probably CVS type film camera, you know, that you shooting at f4, you know, you can't change the aperture or anything like that, and it's just her on a little.
She was at the playground.
Right.
The playground.
She's leaning back holding on to the end of the stairs, and it was shooting from the
You're
the top,
on the thing.
on the top of the stairs, and she was leaning back, and her hair's kind of flowing,
and the thing
was a
is with
great
that,
shot.
the thing with that is if the house was burning down, I would run and I would grab that photo before I'd get my laptop or anything else. Like, and that's what I'm saying is the feeling of the photo is the most important thing. And when you add all these different effects to it, it makes it can, and I'm not judging anybody's work, but what I'm saying is it can make it a selfish thing where it's about you and your effects and making a shot that's like crazy lit or whatever, rather than exalting the message of what's going on there.
Yeah.
So to me, I find it a bit sophomoric, where it's like an insecurity when you have to rely on going so big to get a shot. I've really found the more confident I've become, where I don't need elaborate lighting setups. I can keep it simple, or I use what's needed, what's appropriate.
Yes. Yep.
You know, that's it. I don't feel the need to kind of show off and do these big elaborate lighting setups. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
So I want to expand on what you were talking about. So I made a video on this, why I think people like bad photography, because my girlfriend's learning photography, and she's actually really talented in my opinion. But she points out Instagram accounts she likes sometimes, and I'll look at them and I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, like, all right, because there's no secret sauce. When you really understand photography, you could say, okay, I know the focal length they use, I know the f-stop they use, I know exactly how they lit this image. It's repeatable.
Yes.
But when you don't know how to repeat it, it has this mystery, and you're like, how do I do that?
What was that? Yeah.
And that's what people are chasing. So I think they think you're a good photographer when you can replicate like the cool, trendy look. But
well, the cool trendy look right now is presets. So it's it's like, oh gosh, okay, well that's everyone wants that, like brides. I followed this page on Facebook, and it's like, you know, all those wedding pages that brides are in and stuff, and they're like, I'm looking for a photographer that can do this type of photography. Well, I'm like, it's not a type of photography you're looking for. It's actually the preset, so you can just buy that yourself and take it with your friggin' iPhone. So it's like aggravates me. So it gets me so mad. Hyped.
But it is good business advice to set yourself apart. But I think if you really want to think deeply on this, how are you setting yourself apart? You don't have to do it with an arbitrary style. Yeah. Like, I love when people talk about style. Like, it's actually very obnoxious to me when they talk about style. Like, it's this arbitrary thing you pick. Like, I'm going to be all about desaturated, high contrast images, you know? But why? And let me tell you, like, styles come and go. And it's one thing having a style, but the reality is it's probably influenced by your peers. But when you're following a trend, that is a huge mistake. That's in my opinion, because it's not going to trend forever. 100%. When I first started, when I was first shooting weddings, the trend was vintage photography. And I'm not talking about film filters. I'm talking about like washed out, like cyan or just sepia. Heavy orange filters over the entire sepia, but like worse than sepia. Yeah. And even then, I just felt bad for the couples getting married and hiring those people, because in 5 years they're gonna look at it and be like, "Oops,
shit,
oh shit,"
damn it,
you know.
That's
so. As a selling point, back when I was doing weddings, I always said, hey, my photographs look like photographs. No fancy filters, they just look like photographs. Now, I said that because I knew they would understand what I meant, But the reality is there's no such thing as a way a photograph is supposed to look. Because photographs are not reality, they're representations of reality.
Yes.
Kind of like what you guys were talking about. What you're using photography for is to represent a moment. You're not actually documenting it in this perfectly pure way, because technology changes, film stocks change, digital cameras change. And so there's always like a fingerprint on it. It's never this pure representation of reality.
Yes.
And in fact, sometimes humans can't agree on what reality is.
Yes.
So there is no correct way that a photograph should look.
Yeah.
But that said, what I meant when I would tell my clients that is that I'm not using filters. I'm, basically adjusting for color contrast,
Exposure.
sharpening.
Yeah.
Yeah, exposure by a third of a stop here and there kind of thing.
Yeah, it's funny because so many good things that you touched on here, and I hope the guy, you guys listening, this is advanced. This is super advanced photography talk right here, because the thing is it comes down to, guys, do not try and fit yourself into a style. What you need to do is to go shoot more and learn how to connect with what you're shooting, and the style will emerge on its own, and it will do it in a truthful way. It will be honest, and it will be gripping to other people, because it won't be based on selfishness. I've said this before too, and I just feel like the selfishness that you feel when you're trying to manipulate an image to look like your way or get into your lane, that is transferred through the image. That might sound like woo-woo or whatever, but people can pick up on an image that's flat and dead, and that is where the selfishness comes from. It comes to life when you're really exalting and highlighting what you're photographing. And it's you taken out of the scene. The photographer, it's not about the photographer. It's about what you're photographing.
I mean, I agree. I do in a sense. When I go into a wedding, I do put myself in the scene, though. I put me as a person, as an emotional woman going into into the scene of how I would feel, or I love that moment. I need
you're leaving your fingerprint on it.
Yeah, I just know what at my wedding what made me feel good and what shots. Even when I look back at my wedding albums, I'm like, wow, I love that shot, made me feel so good. So I do put myself into, I guess it's different, but I do put my emotions into the photograph.
I think that you do that by, there's a difference between leaving a fingerprint and a signature on it involuntarily and actually forcing yourself on the situation, I feel like.
True. Yep.
And, I my photography channel, and yours too, Mik, which is one of the reasons why I love your channel, is it's about the essence and the real art of this, and actually, what makes a photograph great, and how you can be a person who's going to get those, because it really isn't about a technique. It's about intently focusing. That type of stuff doesn't get the most hits and the most views.
No.
It really doesn't. But it's the most important thing, guys, to stepping up your photography, is learning how to connect with what's going on and seeing things develop and trying to just document what you see. And then once you become a practitioner of light in your camera and stuff like that, you can start to add creative, spices and effects to it. But ultimately, you are there to connect with your clients and bring that out of them, rather than try and force something on them yourself.
Right. Silly me, I thought 5 photography hacks videos were what made you better, but that's
5 tips for
I've got all these videos that are in my YouTube studio queue, which I hesitate to post, and I haven't, I've been thinking about it because I don't know how they'll be received.
Man, we can kind of move on into this YouTube realm, because there's things I wanted to talk about too. And the thing is, when I first started posting videos, my stuff is kind of opinionated. I say kind of what's on my mind or whatever. And there is an element of people out there that no matter what you say, they're always going to have an issue with it, or they're always going to come off with some type of negative, vibe or whatever. Yeah. I just feel like the thing is the world is starving for truth and for people who just tell it like they feel it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much inauthenticity in the world, and so many charlatans and people just pretending to be something that they're not. people just want truth, whether they like it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no matter what you say, there's always going to be an element of people who just have something negative to spew out there. So now, you know, if I post something, a video, and somebody writes something negative, I just say, you know, I sometimes I'll write, thank you for your opinion and thank you for furthering the reach of this video by posting a comment.
Yeah, I always
Right.
say that too.
You know
I'm
what I
like,
mean?
just say thank you to them.
Just
like,
say thank you.
Because if we got into other topics, I mean, going into other things, I mean, I have my own opinion about a lot of stuff, and I just sometimes it, you know.
But the world needs authentic, true opinions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Mick?
Sure.
Well, yes, but it's very. So my hesitation is never about. I kind of just live my life. I don't. Everyone cares about what people think about them. Everyone, right?
Yeah.
But
Everyone
I
thinks
do.
you owe them something. It's like, oh my God.
I just think I genuinely seem to care a lot less than most people around me. I walk around. I have like two modes. Like I like a really nice suit, and I also dress like I'm homeless when I'm walking to the store. You know, like I just don't care. Yeah, I just don't care too much about what other people think. In the sense of like my truth, I don't feel judged by other people. I don't really care if you want to judge me.
Right.
Judgment is a major weakness. Like I see this as a very weak trait. So it's not that. It's that I worry about my ideas maybe not being clear. Because sometimes, no matter what you say, people hear what they want to hear. And so I can't stop that, but I can at least try to make my ideas as clear as possible.
Yep.
But then these keyboard warriors don't understand what it is to like put yourself out there. So like really like they're using like I had on my channel the other day a guy using a fake name without a picture, just basically you can't have a debate with them because they're not arguing over any facts.
Exactly.
They're hearing what they want to hear, and no matter what you say, it won't change a thing. You can't get into a logical debate with them.
Yep.
So yeah, I hesitate here and there. But I worry about my ideas not being clear enough, but it's really hard to turn a camera on and then speak and be perfectly clear and not make a mistake. Sometimes you misspeak, you know? It's natural. It's very human.
100%. Yeah, I don't know how. Sometimes I make videos. I really don't. I don't know, but I just feel like people need truth, and we need more people actually telling it how it is, like it or not. You don't have to agree with it, but at least it's their truth, and it's something that's authentic. Because, you know, I'm just so sick of fakeness, basically. You know what I mean? I just really am.
Yeah, I mean, I go around and I'm like just telling people how it is all the time. Sometimes people are like, you're like, honey. I'm like, well, I just needed her to know. That's it. It has to. I mean, I don't know. Like, you know, even like I go into. So recently, I mean, this is off topic of photography, but at least recently I went into a Starbucks and this lady was working back there, and there was the boy. He was young. He was probably, I don't know, maybe 16. He was working, and he was a little bit slower to make the like coffee, and like people were kind of standing in line, and she's yelling at him, and I was like, I got my coffee, and she came around to give it to me, and I told her, I'm like, hey, listen, I know who you think you are. I'm like, but this is a 16-year-old boy here. I'm like, is it necessary to treat him that way? I'm like, you need to step back and relax. And she like looked at me and was like,
you're right.
Speaking your truth.
Oh gosh. I was like, lady, don't even get into it with me today. Cause I swear I was just like, I cannot believe you were treating him that way. I'm like, you are.
People, not to get too meta, but people who lack power will find subconsciously ways to gain power over other people, and berating a 16-year-old child, you know, is her subconscious way of doing that.
Yep.
So, I mean, so I have a lot of understanding, but doesn't make it okay. I found the older I get, the more I'm like, really not, I don't have a problem like pointing it out.
Yeah.
Now, I think, here's the thing. I'm not going to tell someone they're a piece of shit because then I'm not better than them necessarily. But I like pointing out like, hey, you're not being kind. Like,
right. Look in the mirror.
Always.
Yeah.
I always do that. And especially because like, I don't know. I mean, we have kids and it's like, you know, if I see something, it's like, first of all, like, I don't appreciate that. I don't like that. I mean, I don't want to come back here. I don't want to see stuff like that. And I'm sure like, whatever.
Well,
but
and it translates over to YouTube. I mean, it's just the elements of normal society are just like there on online too. But
yep.
I just feel like
Well, online people are able to hide behind
yes, yeah.
I point out
anonymity.
to my daughter all the time when we're walking through stores wherever we are, mostly Target, but I'm like I'm like, don't be like this person. See this woman right here? Don't be like her. Put a smile on your face. Don't look, I'm always like, don't do that. Don't do this. Or, be your true authentic self. And being miserable is not a way you want to be. So I'm always pointing out, don't be like this person.
Heck no.
Always.
Well, I just wanted to touch on one last thing, Mick. I like going back to that video that I initially found your channel on, and the mental struggles in kind of keeping yourself in check when you're a business owner in the photography business, specifically. This was a huge one for me because when you're running a creative business, nobody is getting up and telling you to, do your taxes, edit your photos,
right.
Email your clients, keep up with all that stuff. And then no one's telling you, hey, listen, you need to go to the gym. You need to eat healthy. You need to get sleep. How are you, first of all, I mean, I know that you know the effects of not managing that stuff correctly, but when you first started your business, did you find that was just like a whirlwind? You were just focusing 100% on your stuff and trying to get it done, and self-care was taking a back seat? And how have you kind of changed since you've been in it for a while?
That's a big topic. I don't know where to start. I'm going to start with, I'll say this. It's all very intertwined. So if you're like sacrificing your mental health for whatever gains you're chasing in your business, it's not going to work out.
Yep.
Like if you're not mentally happy, you're not going to produce your best work, for example.
Sure.
So I think it needs to be taken seriously. I think that some of the biggest problems is lack of community, and that's what I talked to with Dr. Ali on that video. We were talking about you need a community, and it's hard when you're sitting at home editing photos all day, and you might not even leave your home for a few days, know?
Yes. Yep.
Like, I'm lucky. I don't like a schedule, but I probably need one. And it's sometimes when my schedule falls apart, my mental health takes a hit.
Yes.
If I don't have any routine. And I'm lucky. I never really taught photography for income, but it gives me something to do. Somewhere I have to be, like a few times a week. And it also lets me appreciate not when I'm not there.
Yes.
So I'm able to just appreciate, hey, I get to be home and work today.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the two different extremes or differences that kind of help you value the other, it's kind of like, what's life worth if there is no suffering? To have joy, you have to suffer, unfortunately. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So I try to reframe things to be positive now. That's a big thing I'm working on, where I say, it's very easy. It's very easy to not be grateful for the good things in your life, to not be grateful for my teaching gig, where I'm just like, I got to go teach again. It's easy. It's easy. You have to change your perspective.
100%. Yeah,
that's great.
With us too, like, I think the same thing is I'm kind of like I hate when people refer to themselves as creatives. I hate it's just one of those things that kind of irks me because it's like trendy now to be like, oh, I'm a creative. But I've always been the type of person that if I'm not creating something, I get super, super depressed.
I would encourage you to maybe rethink about how you perceive the word. And like, I used to hate, I'm an artist.
Yes.
Because it sounded pretentious.
Pretentious, exactly.
But it's not. Like, it's okay. And the minute you become it, you own it. And if you're telling yourself, I don't know, I'm not an artist, you're not going to act like one.
Yep.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. That is very true, yeah.
Back to another jiu-jitsu analogy, like, I didn't act like a black belt until I got my black belt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I mentally handicapped myself. I acted like a brown belt, even if I was at a black belt level, And so, there's nothing wrong with owning it and saying, I am an artist. And you are creative. And creativity is a personality trait. there's I'm not an expert. I want to put that out there, but from what I know, you probably have a lot of a stronger prefrontal cortex, which is a lot where a lot of your creativity comes from. Some people have personality traits to be a cog, and I think it's like 80-90%. Creatives are a minority, and unfortunately, with creativity, with that desire, they're also very high on like openness. Is a lot of difficulty. It's very hard.
It is, man.
Because it's a very hard thing to do, and it's not a choice.
It's not, and it really isn't. And that's the thing is, I used to, before I found like photography, I was like, kind of going back and forth with like, depression and stuff like that. And it's like I had all these, ideas in my head that I couldn't get out. And as soon as I started to find photography, I started to get a lot happier. But the structure that you're talking about, my mind goes to like the extreme. If I just let myself go, I'll be a mess. Things will just, I'll miss deadlines. I'll just focus on just shooting photos, and that's all I want to do. And things get kind of messed up. But I need to keep some type of structure in my life, and that kind of anchors everything else and allows me to do the things like, take care of QuickBooks and do the taxes and pay the bills and then get things done on time that my mind doesn't necessarily want to do, as a, as the easiest route. You know what I mean?
Right. I detest that whole side of it, to be honest.
Oh, it
I'll be 100% honest. Like, I kind of built my business by ignoring it. And unfortunately, though, you get to a point where you want more, like I'm thinking about my future, and like, is good enough isn't enough anymore,
Yes.
But I was able to build a business where it was good enough, where I worked most weekends, a few times a week. Sometimes I worked like, 5-6 days out of the week shooting events, which is really good. And but sometimes, averaged, at least I worked every weekend. I was happy.
Yeah.
But you want more at some point, and so now I have to do all the stuff that I kind of ignored.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's tough, man. So, and the community aspect that you touched on too, I think that is important. Like because we can be introverts and just kind of focus on the work, and not realizing that we do need a community of people to, to reach out to and just kind of bounce ideas off of, and just kind of be there, kind of, touching on life things. I mean, you need it. You really do.
Right, right. You have to be able to talk to someone who can understand what you're going through, or else you're in a very lonely place. You're on an island. And so if you're a creative and you're toiling away, like we kind of romanticize the idea of the artist in the studio, toiling away and all, but
the depressed guy making beautiful art.
Yeah, but that's just not gonna work out so well for your mental health.
Well, they all end up committing suicide.
To have an outlet too. I mean, something else that's for you that you enjoy to do. That's not just because photography is creative, but it's also for you and for us a job. So I think that like there needs to be some other outlet that you enjoy. I mean, like you're saying,
Jiu-jitsu,
I can't say it. I literally cannot say that word.
I'll say it, jiu-jitsu.
And for me, I mean, I have gymnastics that I love. My daughter's a gymnast, and I was a gymnast growing up, so that's something that I can go to, and I really
anchors you. Yeah,
it keeps me going, and it makes me really happy. And coaching is something that's important to me on top of photography. So I really enjoy that.
It's my impression you do need that balance, but I've been around a lot of people that are trying to be the best at something, and they think they need to sacrifice everything. Yes. They need to work harder than everyone else combined. And I don't know, maybe they're right if you want to be the quote best, but first of all, you can't really, there's no way to quantify that for photography. But I mean, I'm around professional athletes, and some of them think I need to just train. That's the only thing I can do. They travel, they go all the way to Dubai just to do a tournament, but they don't even see the sights. It's like,
well, I always
hyper focused.
Yeah, I mean, I tell my gymnasts too, like they need other outlets too to keep the creative, like dancing and stuff, and keep things going. But I have seen with Will, like, with photography, I've seen Will struggle to find, true happiness, and I know that photography and this is what makes Will truly happy.
Right.
And I know that sometimes it's like we were talking before about, you know, where doing weddings is like work for us. We enjoy it. We love it. But like, I think that getting out and taking
Right.
photos of other things that, you know, not
Aren't
just
work related.
weddings. Yeah. Not just weddings and stuff. That's really great. And to keep that up too.
If I don't shoot for myself
Mm.
for a while, I start to go a little bit mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Just doing paid
Re-
work.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
Will
I'm
and
very honest. Like a lot of people want to say, "Oh, this is my passion," and I just say, "Really? Your passion is to photograph people's weddings? Like that's what you would do? Like if you had all the money in the world?"
Right.
And
Right.
don't get me wrong, I know you guys love it, right?
Yeah.
You genuinely enjoy it.
Right.
But if you had $1 billion, is that how you spend every weekend?
So I'm gonna tell you the honest truth here, okay? This is the real shit. If I had $1 billion right now, I would shoot weddings, but I'd shoot probably 3 or 4 a year.
Yeah. We would
Yeah.
pick where they would
Exactly.
be. Yeah.
I would teach one class
Yeah.
of photography a week. You
Yeah.
know, I would teach 1 or 2 maybe because I really, really do enjoy it. I really enjoy teaching in the darkroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I probably wouldn't teach digital classes too often, maybe once in a while, because I really like helping people.
Yes.
I love teaching in general. I love
Right.
teaching. I love coaching people. Yeah. Yeah.
But
for
the
sure.
reality is the weddings for you, the events for me is a job.
Income.
We started this podcast me talking about how I hated every job I ever had, and that's why I kind of did it. I had like 2 choices is what I felt. I could do a 9 to 5, which in reality in America that probably means like a 8 to 5,
Yep.
maybe more.
With a break.
Maybe
Yep.
it might be 13 hours a day. And then I would hope I wasn't drained, and I mean like not just like mentally drained, but spiritually drained.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
from a soul-sucking job, because for me it felt like actual torture. Every job I had since high school felt like torture. I mean, the amount of energy and courage it took every day to get up and actually show up there was very difficult.
Oh God, yeah.
Shit, I know that feeling.
I don't think human beings, and especially creative types, so some people are. I don't think anyone is really meant to do it, but some people can get on doing it a bit better, but creatives can't. And so the idea of sitting in a chair for 9 hours in a cubicle,
There's somebody
or
telling you what to do.
yeah, and then and then when I was in college, I worked at Best Buy in the digital imaging department, and I loved helping people, and I got to talk to people about cameras. But the corporate structure and all that killed me. That was like soul sucking.
Oh my God.
And just
yeah.
like, it was just so offensive. Like a lot of the policies where they just, with a straight face, try to tell you it's good for you. Like, oh, no, it's better for you and the customer when we don't have commission. I'm like, oh, yeah.
How's
sure,
that work?
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, explain that to me. Like
Okay.
Amazon recently talking about how it's their a position that unions would be bad for their workers. And it's such a lie.
Yeah.
It's a lie that we've been, that's just been repeated for a very long time.
Well, I get it, man. And sitting in there and not being, there's 2 options. It's like, okay, Sarah and I were just talking about this actually on the way home from our wedding yesterday. And it's like, we had a lot of fun, but there was a lot of work involved too. So it's like, we have to realize that, hey, you know what? There's nothing that's going to be 100% just fun and super mind-blowingly creative all the time. You have to just kind of like get into a position where, okay, I'm taking the good with the bad here. Like I'm doing ultimately what I love, but I also have to make sure that I'm doing stuff that's really sparking my creativity away from the photography that I do that I'm getting paid for, because otherwise everything's just work.
Right. And look, you can enjoy your work. I really enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
I'm just honest. Like, I'm not going to shoot Nike's event, out of pure enjoyment.
Right.
Like tomorrow I think I'm doing an AT&T shoot. Like, they need to pay me for me to show up, right? I enjoy it. And, like, the option
it's not
was
charity work.
Yeah. So back to like what I was saying, like it was a 9 to 5 where I had stability, but would I even have the energy, because I knew how draining it would be to pick up a camera after? And so I chose option 2, which was to make it my job, but that has its own problems. Being a photographer, mostly you're not shooting. Very little time is spent shooting compared to like everything else.
Right.
We all know that. It might be like 10%.
Yep.
I'd guess it's like 10% maybe.
Yeah, maybe 15 around there. There's traveling and editing and responding to emails is the major thing.
Oh gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I might only work like 6 hours in a weekend shooting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't spend like 40 more throughout the week.
Yeah.
And like us, we're also doing YouTube. It's really hard to actually be a working photographer and do a YouTube channel. I want to say on this,
dude. Yeah.
like I watch a lot of these full timers, and it's like I'm a bit envious, but I'm like I see how much work has to go into some of the videos they're producing, and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way they're also a professional photographer.
There's no way.
I don't think they could do it.
Right.
So that's fine. Just be honest.
Yeah. And
like
I think that's one reason why channels like you and ours, you and mine, just have a lot of potential, is because we are actually working photographers. We're out there with that truth, and it's like, hey, you don't have to agree with everything we say, but you can know that we're actually speaking from a point of people are paying us to actually work.
Right. That's one of the videos I have, and I actually I was going to send it to you and get your guys' take on it, because I'm like, if the minute I post this, not that I think it's going to get a ton of views, but there's going to be some negative. People are going to say things. They're going to say stuff I'm not saying. That's the most frustrating for me, is when you have to defend a position you didn't take.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they're like, oh, so you think blah 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 blah. I'm like, no, I actually do not think that, and I didn't say that. But
refresh the video and go watch it again. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But no, it doesn't matter. And when they know they're losing just on reality, they'll then say, oh, that's a smug thing to say. They'll attack your characters. So you're just playing this game with them. So I just choose not to play it for the most part.
I agree, man.
I'm lucky. I don't really get too many negative comments on my channel. I got one in the last half year or a year, actually. I got a ton about a year ago, though, because a guy did this whole hit piece on me. I still laugh about it. I mean, like I chose not to respond to him. I took the high ground because it's really kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like, it's so pathetic, it's funny. I watched Black Klansman last night.
I didn't.
And like, it's it's about racism, but like you watch these fools that are just so unevolved, like, and it makes the racism funny. Like, racism isn't funny. These like pathetic people that are racist are kind of funny. It's like, really, bro? That's what you think? Like, did you just say that? But so I did this. I wake up one morning, I think I told you guys this story before, but I wake up one morning, and this is when I had like 42 subscribers, and I'm getting all these added subscribers. I mean, I got like 10 overnight. And in the beginning, like, it's hard to get one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I got this big grin. I'm like, yeah, like, today's rad. Hell yeah. Okay, I'm getting traction. And then someone comments, hey,
fuck ass.
Video.
Yeah.
Found you. No. It was actually a guy who was kind, who subscribed. He's like, hey, just want to give you a heads up. This is how I found you. And I watched this video from this guy who previously had a big channel. To me, like 40,000 is a lot. It still is, right? Yeah. And he actually emailed me a few days before saying, oh, hey, you made really good points on your video. I was hoping I could actually just address it and include it in a video. I'm like, yeah, sure, man. Go for it. But the actual video was like this hit piece where it was like really attacking my character, not my ideas. You can disagree. I actually really enjoy when people want to have a discourse.
Of the idea.
I really enjoy it. But when you're just attacking my character, it's ridiculous. Yeah. And he makes this whole video just talking crap about me, really. But the funny thing is that it was so inauthentic. It was just a lie, because he was attacking me because he said I attacked someone else, but I actually was just making general points, and I did bring up a channel, not by name, but I said, it's a shame this channel shifted to gear reviews, pretty much. That was the extent of my statement.
That's so offensive.
Yeah.
That's so
And
offensive.
the guy is
Kill
a
him.
nice guy. I've never met him, but I'm pretty sure the guy is a nice guy, and it wasn't an attack on his character. It was just more, damn, it's a shame. I really liked his channel.
Right.
And so this guy makes this whole attack video where he like mentions the guy's channel by name. So like I had 40 subscribers. I don't mention the guy's name, and now this guy makes this attack video and mentions the guy's name and really just blows up the point I was making.
Right. Yeah.
So under the guise of, oh, I'm defending my friend, and I'm like, I don't think you guys are friends. Like I don't think they're friends.
Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact.
But he's just proving the point. That's it.
But the reality is, like, you don't defend your friend by like taking this guy's position that 42 people, and by the way, that doesn't mean 42 people even watched it.
Yeah.
You know, I had 42 subscribers, and then blowing it up. It's like, and that's actually the funny thing is that's kind of how my channel finally started to grow, because I don't really make the videos that are going to get watches.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I don't, and I'm okay with, like, don't get me wrong, like, I can put on a brave face when I make videos, but of course, like, I'm home and I get a little sad, even if I understand why my videos don't get a lot of views. I do understand why they don't, but it sucks, you know? Like,
Well,
I don't have a negative opinion of why. It's not like, oh, nobody cares about real photography. No, nobody searches for that.
Right.
It's not a searchable term. Like, I don't know, what's a good, I can't think of a good, like, a title, like, of my recent videos, but you can search Nikon Z6 autofocus.
Yeah.
So that's all it is. It's not because people don't care.
Well, YouTube is a search engine. You know,
Right,
first that's what
right.
it is. Yeah.
And
it's like actually the number 2 search engine. Google's number 1, and then it
Correct,
goes YouTube.
right.
So, yeah, I mean, people go there and they search terms like that. But, you know, it just all goes back to the fact that we just need truth, Mik. And one of the things that drew me to your channel in the beginning, like I said, and the reason why I keep trying to, you know, get you on these podcasts and mention your name on my channel and stuff is because I believe that, you know, you have a real message. Same with me. And we just need to keep hammering out that idea of, hey, if you're a photographer out there, it's not just about the gear. It's about connecting with the creativity. It's about the clients, and it's about getting to a higher level of understanding of what you're actually doing out there, rather than, oh, I need this new lens or I need this new body, and that's going to make me a good photographer. You know?
Right. And, you know, I think I'll say this about you guys. I can tell you care.
Yeah,
like,
we do.
you actually are trying to help people.
Yeah, we
You know?
do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
like,
no.
for me, like, YouTube's a great way to help. I'm already helping people, like, learn photography in my normal life, but I can only teach, like, 8 people at a time, and I have very small classes.
Yep.
And this was a way, like, I can potentially reach more people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
cool.
unfortunately, like, in order to get those videos seen, because nobody wants to make videos that nobody watches. What's the point? You know?
Yeah.
You put a lot of time and energy, and
Oh yeah.
if 5 people are watching it, you know.
Well, dude, people even they don't understand, like, just to run this podcast, there's monthly fees that go into all these subscription stuff just to host this stuff. So it's
Yeah.
not only is it the energy, but it's actually financial stuff too. But yeah, so
yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, like, I don't foresee making money from this in even close to the foreseeable future. I mean, it costs money.
yeah,
The
it does.
reality is it costs money.
Oh
like,
yeah, big time.
and money and time, which I value more than money, is time. Like,
Yeah, but it feels good knowing that we're putting information out there that's actually helping people, and that is a reward for me. It really is.
Right. You know what? Like, I'm very anti-social media. I won't even log into Instagram for months at a time. When I'm shooting film, then I get excited and I'll shoot like a bunch of rolls for 8 hours. I'll shoot. I'll go home. I'll develop it at home the same day, and then I'm already scanning them in and posting them. But the actual everything else about Instagram, scrolling through it, liking and commenting, it doesn't really appeal to me. But I'm not lying when I get a comment on YouTube, like I light up. I'm really excited about those.
Well,
like
it's a community.
it makes my day. Or when you get a long email where someone's like, I get it, I get what you're trying to say. Or when they tell you like how much you've genuinely helped them.
Yes, 100%. Man.
I'm actually asking Santa for a film camera this year. So
Oh,
I
Mik,
hope that he
What kind do you
delivers.
want?
He delivers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Mik,
We've gone back and forth of which one,
Yeah,
that I want.
we're this
Not
is
sure yet.
we're Santa might be good to you this year. Put it that way.
You know what? Don't worry about which one you get because you're not gonna stop there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I
Mik,
have a
next
feeling,
time
yeah.
next time we have you on the podcast, I want to do one that's basically just focused on film.
Yeah, I
Okay?
was just gonna say
Because
that.
I know you're a big film guy. So after we hang up, let's schedule the next one and let's do an episode all on film because
Yeah, and I like to know which one I should really get. What's
Well,
your opinion?
Which one you should really get?
Really-
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Like, why? I don't. So this is a big topic. I think it's a good call to do a whole podcast on it.
Yeah.
And this is something my brain will start firing up, and I'll talk about that for hours.
I love it.
But this is a problem. Like, I know if I speak a little bit about something, then people presume my position on other things. So, like, for example, if I make a pro film video, they assume I'm anti-digital.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, no,
No, dude.
that's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most people, like I made recently why I think it's better to learn on digital, and most people I think understood that I was making one point, and it doesn't mean there aren't merits to learning on film.
Yeah.
But as far as your question, like which you should get, the reason I shoot film is mostly the experience.
Yes,
Like I
exactly.
love the actual experience. It's not about I like the look of film necessarily. It's more the experience and the
Slowing down.
it's so much more.
Yeah, I wanna shoot a
It
whole
slows
wedding.
you down. My hit rate is higher because I'm very present. It's like reminds me of what it used to be like when I had to shoot with my original 5D, where you had no burst rate. Like, it was like 3 frames a second. The only autofocus point that was worth a damn was the middle one.
Yep.
So you were doing like focus recompose, but my timing was spot on back then because I couldn't mess that up, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like you had one shot, literally one shot at the peak of action.
Oh boy.
The defining moment. And
Right.
so when I'm shooting film, it feels like that again. But anyway, the point is, like, one of the things I love about film is the variety of cameras I have. So every time it's like a new experience, and it's just
Cool.
fun. It's playing.
So
It's playing.
cool.
It's a new toy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. 100%.
Like if you're chasing toys because you're always chasing the new tech that's technically superior, that's different. For me, I actually some of the cameras, I guess our video shut out, but I have this really interesting camera. I'm holding it up just in case, but it's like Ansco Mark M. It's like an old rangefinder, and it's just so weird to use. Like
Yeah, that's
it
cool.
doesn't work like any other camera I've used before.
Yeah, but it's about the experience, and you're having
Right.
something on your body that's like a different extension that's actually making the process of seeing things different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what I like to do when I go out and shoot film is I shoot to the camera's quirks or strengths, but I would say quirks more than strengths.
Yeah.
So if it is a camera with maybe scale focusing, I don't know if you guys are familiar with.
Scale
Scale
focusing?
focus.
No.
So basically, you're gauging how far you think your subject is.
Oh, yeah.
You have
Okay.
to- you have to
Yes,
place
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're like, okay, that's 10 meters away, and so you set the lens to 10 meters.
Yep.
I'll embrace that, and I'll shoot maybe more from the hip, or I'll shoot with higher f-stops. I won't shoot wide open because I could mess it up.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if you're at 1.9 and you guess 5 feet instead of 4,
Right. You're screwed. It's out
you're
of focus.
screwed. Yeah. Or just like my Rolleiflex, like I love that experience of shooting from like a waist level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of embrace the camera. I play with that camera. I shoot, and if it doesn't have a light meter, great, Sunny 16.
Yep.
Honestly, I have a lot of cameras that have light meters and they don't use them.
Yeah, it's funny. When I first started shooting film, I started with the Pentax K1000, and it's like,
I've got one of those.
Yeah, it's just a great, easy thing to get into. But like I said, I want to save this for a whole nother podcast because we could just freaking start talking about this for hours.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's do that one soon.
Absolutely,
man.
Well, Mik, man, this was wicked fun, and I enjoyed this one just as much as the first one.
Yeah.
And man, we look forward to having you on the show like more than a few times because like I said, I know I keep going back to this, and I'm not trying to gas you up too much, but like your channel, your message, and it's good to talk to somebody else who thinks about photography in the same way we do.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate that. And what there's a lot of people watching and they're starting out and maybe it goes over their head, but it's planting seeds.
Yes.
And I do think, they'll hold on to that and maybe later on it will click. They'll get it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen, this was fun, and we will talk to you on the next one.
Sounds good. I look forward to that.
Absolutely, buddy.
Me too.
All right. See you guys.
Later, buddy.
Bye, Mik.